I was putting up Halloween decorations with my daughter when our neighbor came over and said, "No witches or skeletons. I don't want my kids seeing that devil garbage." We ignored her. That night, our front porch was covered in raw eggs and slash decorations. I checked my doorbell camera. It was her kids. The next day, she came over with a Bible and said, "God told me to cleanse this neighborhood." Then she pulled out a lighter. What happened next made headlines. I live in Denton, Texas. It's a quiet place. Normal. Safe. Or at least it used to be. I'm a single dad. My wife, Erin, passed away 2 years ago after a short, brutal fight with cancer. It wrecked me, but I had to stay strong for our daughter, Shelby. She's 10 now. Sweet, smart, a little shy, and obsessed with Halloween. It was always her and Erin's thing, carving pumpkins, picking out costumes, decorating the house. After Erin died, Shelby didn't want to do much the first year. But this year, she was ready again. She told me she wanted the scariest house on the block. We went to Spirit Halloween the first week of October and loaded up. Skeletons, witches, fake spider webs, a giant blow-up pumpkin, LED lights, gravestones, you name it. We spent a whole Saturday putting it all up. She was laughing for the first time in a while. That made me feel like maybe things were getting better. Then, around 3 p.m., someone walked across the street. It was our new neighbor, Darlene. I didn't know much about her. She moved in about 3 months ago with her 2 sons, looked like they were maybe 9 and 11. I'd said hello once or twice, waved when we passed, but she kept to herself. Always had a weird intensity in her eyes, like she was watching for something to go wrong. She walked up with this tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hi," she said. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I stepped away from the ladder. "Sure, what's up?" She looked at the witch decoration Shelby had just finished setting up. "This," she said, pointing. "It needs to go. The witch, the skeletons, all of it." I waited for a "just kidding," but it never came. She folded her arms. "I don't want my boys exposed to that devil garbage. It's ungodly. It opens doors. I'm serious." I looked at Shelby, who had stopped what she was doing. Her face had gone pale. I said, "Look, it's Halloween. It's for fun. It's not about the devil." Her mouth tightened. "Fun turns into evil. Evil doesn't always look scary. Sometimes it looks like a smiling child holding a fake witch." I blinked. "Well, we're not taking it down." She stared at me for a moment. "I'll pray for your family," she said, and walked back across the street. Shelby asked, "Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweetie," I said. "Some people just want to ruin things for others." That night, just past midnight, I was upstairs when I heard a weird thump outside. Then another. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the Ring doorbell app. My stomach dropped. It was Darlene's kids. I could see them clear as day in the camera feed. One had a carton of eggs. The other had a box cutter. They were laughing as they slashed Shelby's blow-up pumpkin. Then they started egging the windows. One of them spray-painted "Hell is real" across the plastic cauldron we'd set up near the door. I watched in shock as the older one picked up one of our plastic gravestones and snapped it in half. I hit record and saved the footage. My hands were shaking. I was ready to call the cops right then, but I decided to wait until morning. Maybe talk to Darlene first. Give her a chance to own up. Big mistake. Around 9 a.m., I was in the kitchen with Shelby when the doorbell rang. It was her. She stood on the porch holding a Bible in one hand. The other hand was clenched. Her eyes were wide, wild. No smile this time. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "I prayed last night," she said. "God spoke to me. I didn't say anything. He told me to cleanse this neighborhood," she said. "To drive out the evil." Then she lifted her other hand. She was holding a lighter. I slammed the door so fast it rattled. Then I looked out the peephole and saw her throwing something toward the porch. I didn't know what it was right away. It made a clink sound. Then I smelled gasoline. It was a Molotov cocktail. She tried to light our porch on fire. It didn't fully ignite, thank God. But it scorched the porch railing and burned part of the welcome mat. I called 911 immediately. My voice was shaking. I told them everything. When the cops pulled up, she was still pacing in her yard with the Bible. When they approached, she started shouting about Satan, saying we were all servants of the serpent. Then she threw the Bible at one of them and screamed something in Latin, or what she thought was Latin. They cuffed her right there. She didn't resist. Just kept muttering, "Cleanse it, cleanse it." The police reviewed the footage from my doorbell camera. They couldn't believe it. They called it attempted arson, child endangerment, and criminal mischief. CPS showed up that night and took her kids. The story hit the local news by the next day. The headline was, "Mother tries to burn neighbor's house over Halloween decorations." Shelby had nightmares for weeks. She kept asking if the crazy lady would come back. I installed extra cameras, motion lights, even got a dog. But I wasn't done yet. See, I found something in the footage. Something small. Something the cops missed. And I used it to take this even further. After Darlene was arrested and her kids were taken by CPS, I figured it was over. But I was wrong. Way wrong. The neighborhood changed overnight. Some people supported me, said I did the right thing. Others started acting weird, like I'd brought trouble to the street. I started getting these looks, like I was the one who did something wrong. One woman, 2 houses down, stopped Shelby and asked her if she missed her nice neighbor friends. Shelby came home crying. She said, "Why do they think I did something bad?" That's when I realized something wasn't right. Darlene had a grip on some of these people. Turns out, Darlene wasn't just a crazy neighbor. She was part of a small but active home-based church. Some kind of offshoot group. Real hardcore. They met every Tuesday night at someone's house, rotating locations. A few of them lived right here in our subdivision. I only knew because I caught a guy in a church van taking pictures of my house. Not a joke, he pulled up, slowed down, pointed a phone at my porch, and snapped a few shots. I stepped outside and yelled, "Can I help you?" He drove off without saying a word. I gave the footage to the cops. They said unless he stepped on my property or made threats, there wasn't much they could do. So I did some digging of my own. I went back through the ring footage from the night of the vandalism. At first, I just watched the kids. But then I noticed something. There was a third figure. Off in the shadows near the mailbox. It was quick, just a flash, but I recognized the white sneakers and the long denim skirt. It was Darlene. She stood there, watching her boys destroy our decorations. She wasn't just behind it. She directed it. I downloaded the footage, zoomed in, enhanced it the best I could. It was grainy, but clear enough. That same week, I ran into Darlene's older sister at the grocery store. She used to come by sometimes to help with the kids. We got to talking. I mentioned the church. Her face went cold. "They'd been brainwashing her," she said. "That's not the Darlene I grew up with." I asked her if she testified to that. She said no. She was scared. Then I found out Darlene had been released on bail. You heard that right. Out. On bail. She wasn't allowed back on our street, but she still had friends here. And those friends started a petition. Their goal? Force the HOA to ban offensive and demonic decorations. They were using what happened as an excuse to push their agenda. The HOA president, a guy named Russ, called me up. He asked if I'd consider toning it down next year. I said, "You know she tried to burn my house down, right?" He said, "Look, I'm just trying to keep the peace." I hung up on him. But that gave me an idea. If they wanted to play this out in public, fine. I'd give them a show they'd never forget. I contacted a lawyer friend of mine from college. She helped me file a restraining order, not just against Darlene, but against anyone in her group who tried to interfere with me or my daughter. I also filed a civil suit. For emotional distress. For damages. For the trauma Shelby had to live with. And I sent copies of the ring footage to every local news station in North Texas. 2 days later, I was on TV. I didn't hold back. I told the whole story. About the threats. The vandalism. The fire. The Bible. The lighter. I showed the footage. I named names. And people listened. But that wasn't the end. One night, I came home late from work. Shelby was staying at my sister's for the weekend. I pulled into the driveway and noticed something in the yard. A wooden cross. Driven into the ground. With my name carved into it. I looked up and saw something written across my garage door in red spray paint, "Judgment comes soon." That was it. No more waiting. No more playing it safe. It was time to end this. I called the police again after I saw the cross and the spray paint. They took photos, wrote up a report, and promised to keep an eye out. But I knew that wasn't going to stop whatever this was. I wasn't dealing with a normal neighbor feud. This was a cult. A small one, maybe. But dangerous and obsessed. The next morning, I woke up to something worse. My boss called. "Hey, is everything okay?" he asked. I said, "Yeah, why?" He hesitated. "I got a weird email this morning. From someone claiming you were abusing your daughter. It came with photos." My stomach dropped. Photos of what? They were screenshots. Looked like your Halloween decorations. And Shelby near one of the witches. The email said you were corrupting a child with satanic imagery. I couldn't breathe for a second. "They're trying to ruin me," I said out loud. My boss said he didn't believe a word of it, but he had to forward it to HR because it was formal. I spent the rest of that day scrambling, talking to HR, giving them copies of the police reports, the footage, even Shelby's school counselor's contact. Thank God our counselor backed me up. Said Shelby was well adjusted, doing fine in school, and showed zero signs of abuse. But that wasn't the only email sent. 3 other families on our block got anonymous letters. I found out from Shelby's best friend's mom, who pulled me aside outside the school and asked if I was part of something. "What do you mean?" I asked. She showed me the letter. Printed. No return address. Same handwriting as the stuff sprayed on my garage. It said I was leading children into darkness, and that judgment is near. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about decorations. It wasn't even about religion. This was personal. Someone in that group, maybe Darlene, maybe not, wanted me gone. I started keeping a record of everything. Every incident. Every weird car driving slow past my house. Every time someone from that church group posted about spiritual warfare on the neighborhood Facebook page. And then one night I got a break. It was raining hard. Around 1 a.m. I was in bed when I heard a crash outside. Not thunder, glass breaking. I ran downstairs and found the kitchen window smashed in. I called the police while holding a baseball bat, my heart pounding. I could hear someone running around the side of the house. By the time the cops got there, whoever it was had vanished. But they'd left something behind. A torn piece of denim. Like a sleeve. The cops bagged it. Said they'd test it for DNA. That gave me an idea. I remembered the footage from before, when Darlene was hiding in the shadows that night with her kids. She was wearing the same long denim skirt. I checked the old footage again. The same kind of fabric. But here's the real twist. When the police looked into the church group Darlene belonged to, they found something bigger. The church wasn't even registered. It had no formal name, no tax ID, no real leadership. But the pastor who led it, he was wanted in another state for fraud. His real name was Malcolm Griggs. He'd used 3 aliases. And he wasn't just preaching, he was recruiting. Isolating families. Telling them to pull their kids out of school, get off social media, avoid demonic influence. He'd been kicked out of 2 towns already. And now he was here. I realized Darlene wasn't the ringleader. She was the follower. And the real threat was still out there, watching us, pulling strings, hiding behind people like her. I knew what I had to do next. I started digging deeper into Malcolm Griggs. With help from my lawyer friend, I found old court documents, newspaper articles, and a Facebook group started by someone whose sister had been pulled into one of his earlier churches. That person gave me names, families who'd escaped, addresses where he used to operate, and even a few audio recordings. I listened to one where he talked about sacrifices in the modern world, how God would burn away the infected. Same words Darlene had used. This wasn't religion. It was brainwashing. And I was done playing defense. I started gathering everything, all the doorbell footage, the vandalism, the cross, the smashed window, the false report to my job, the weird letters, the broken porch light, the slashed tires from 2 weeks ago I hadn't even thought to connect. All of it. I handed it over to a private investigator. This guy didn't mess around. Within a week he had addresses, license plates, and a full list of people who'd been attending Malcolm's gatherings, including one right down the street. Turns out Malcolm was living less than a mile away, renting a house under the name Elias Harding. The private investigator caught him on camera outside that same house with 3 other men I recognized from the church van. That night, I made a decision. I sent every piece of info we had to the police, the FBI tip line, and Child Protective Services. Then I did one more thing. I made it all public. Every document, every clip, every photo. I dumped it on Reddit, on Facebook, in the Denton neighborhood groups. I made sure his name was out there again, real name and fake names both. And people responded. One of the families who had escaped years ago saw the post. They lived in Arkansas now. They contacted the Texas authorities directly and gave a sworn statement about what Malcolm had done to their sister, how he'd taken all her money, locked her away for weeks, and told her God would strike her dead if she left. That was the tipping point. Less than a week later, federal agents raided the rental house. They found fake IDs, cash, burner phones, and printed flyers for a cleansing event planned for Halloween night, meant to take place on our block. They arrested Malcolm Griggs on the spot. And guess who else they picked up? Darlene. She had violated her restraining order, twice, according to surveillance. And the police found more printed threats in her bedroom, along with a photo of my daughter taped to a wall with the words, "Pray for her soul," written underneath. Her boys? They're in foster care now. I don't know what will happen to them. I feel bad for them, I do. They didn't ask for this. They were just dragged into it by their mom and that monster she followed. But I didn't walk away clean either. When the dust settled, I realized I'd become someone else in the process. Angry. Paranoid. Shelby started calling me Dad, not the detective, when I stayed up too late reviewing footage. I'd become obsessed with revenge. And yeah, I went too far. I posted those people's faces online. Some of them were just scared and confused. Some of them didn't even know Malcolm's real history. But I didn't care. Not then. I wanted them to feel hunted. Looking back, I don't regret exposing the truth. But I do regret how far I let myself go. Because revenge eats at you. And once it starts, it doesn't stop just because you win. The porch is clean now. The decorations are gone. We didn't celebrate Halloween that year. Shelby didn't even ask. But last week, she drew a picture in school, our house, decorated again, with a big happy pumpkin out front. And she wrote, "Next year will be better." I'm holding her to that. Because evil showed up on our street. And it didn't wear horns. It wore a smile and held a Bible. And I made damn sure everyone saw it for what it really was.